Thank you for the introduction, Siri, and good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about laser tomography, which is a new technique that we have been developing for monitoring greenhouse gas emissions in facility scale. And this won't be a very technical talk, but rather an overview of this technique and its applications. But there will be a couple of links to our recent papers in the chat. We will add them a bit later. But I want to start with a second title page, which to acknowledge the people who have actually done the work I'm presenting today. So in the first line, you will see some PhD students and project researchers who have been in the projects doing this work, and then Perttu and Damien are my collaborators. Perttu from Natural Resources Institute of Finland, and Damien is from Rutherford Appleton Laboratory. And Damien is also affiliated with Miracle, which is a company which has commercialized this technique I'm talking about. So a couple of photos from the field side with our devices. So we have a couple of devices now, one for methane and CO2 measurements. This one is for measuring ammonium. So starting with the concept of this technique, laser tomography. This is a photograph from our collaborators' site, so Natural Resources Institute in Maaninga. And this is one of the devices. So this measures, in this case, methane emissions. This backyard, and we have retroreflectors, which are the laser back to the system. How it's done, and then we can have these mirrors in several places, and we have environmental station and wind velocity. So we place several of these retroreflectors in the site, and then how this system is working. It's a laser that is rotating, and it's measuring sequentially, so that it's pointing the laser in one beam, or one retroreflector at a time, and then measures the reflected light. And without going into details of this measurement, it is giving the line, basically the average concentration of a specific of a certain gas within this beam. So we are basically measuring line integrals of different gas species, in this case methane. And this is done sequentially. We can measure this for a long time in a row, and then what we do with this data, we are estimating the spatially three-dimensionally distributed concentration, which evolves in time, and then also estimating the sources or sinks of the greenhouse gas. And for those who are familiar with tomography, this is quite a limited angle tomography, because in medical imaging, for example, you have projections of a patient from multiple angles, a lot of angles, but here we are stick with basically one angle only. We have placed the measurement system in one place, and we can't rotate the scanner around the field. So it's a very limited angle problem, but how to tackle this problem is that we are modeling the transport of gas and taking that into account in our reconstruction. So we are modeling how gas is transported in 3 dimensions in the field site. And the model is here. So it's a convection diffusion model. Here we have the velocity in the convection term. So this is measured, although we have quite a limited amount of measurements. So we only have a few measurement points of the thing. Of course, we don't know the whole velocity field in the field side, and that's of course one of the approximations that our model has. Then the unknowns of our model in our concentration distribution, which is spatially and temporally distributed, and then here in the model, and then we have source, which is the primary unknown of our model. This we're particularly interested how much gas is emitted in a certain place. So we do sequential measurements, which are line integrals of concentration, and the way to combine this evolution model with the measurements is Bayesian state estimation or data assimilation, if you will. We are using smoothing in practice. This is one of the earlier experiments that our collaborators did in UK. They had controlled releases of gas in different locations, and then these kind of measurements. Here, these are estimates from real data. So on the left column, you can see estimated concentration distributions, and then on the side the estimated sources. So these are snapshots in different times. And the green crosses are showing where the actual position of the source was. This was still when we were using two-dimensional modeling, so there was some error caused by this 2D model. Nowadays, we are modeling everything in 3D. You can also locate more than one sources, and the accuracy depends on how basically on the environmental conditions, which direction the wind is blowing, and so on. And again, this 2D model was still causing some inaccuracies. A couple of other cases where the source was in different locations, and we were already able to locate sources quite nicely, although we were still using 2D model. Some data fit. So this is part of the data simulation. And so this is a newer experiment. This is in Maaninga and in Natural Resources Institute, and we were measuring emissions caused by manure management. So we were modeling this site, and then these are and doing different operations in the field site. And here you can see now the three-dimensionally distributed concentration, which is evolving in time. You can see right now there's not much emission happening, but when you start mixing, for example, here some manure is pumped into these slurry pits, then you can see higher emission coming from that particular location. So these were concentration distributions, but simultaneously we estimated these sources. So this is a bit more illustrative, showing that, for example, here you can see concentration emission coming from the Eastern. And of course, when you stop pumping, you can still see some emission coming from that pit. But when you start pumping again from the same pit, then the increase of emission is apparent. And you can, of course, compute different type of estimates, like integrated emission rates, estimate for their uncertainties, and so on. Go into details. Just want to mention that right now we are developing this and applying this method in this farm gas project, which is a European regional funded project. And here we are applying this technique for measuring emissions from biogas reactors. It's literally right now we have a measurement system running in this farm here in Pohjois-Savo, and trying to see emissions coming from the production of biogas. So just to recap, we have a non-stationary inverse problem. We have indirect measurements of the concentration. We're estimating the concentration distribution and sources based on this kind of sequential measurements, and using in practice Kalman smoothing for that estimation. A lot of topics that we are currently working on in research. We have, of course, different gas species we're interested, not just methane. Work with nitrous oxide, CO2, and ammonium. One of the interesting things or interesting topics is this kind of diffuse source imaging. For example, in agricultural field, you don't have point sources or sources that are constrained in a small area, but it's the whole field which is either a source or sink for greenhouse gases, and that type of sources are causing new challenges that we are currently trying to tackle. But maybe I'll skip that and leave some questions. Thank you.